Greetings, students. Part 2 of Unit 1, Hip Hop Goes Global, from our expository reading and writing curriculum. I'm going to start the reading, and I'll read the first part and look for the next video for the second part. So, Hip Hop Planet. Whether you trace it to New York's South Bronx or the villages of West Africa, hip hop has become the voice of a generation demanding to be heard. By James McBride, National Geographic, April 2007. This is my nightmare. My daughter comes home with a guy and says, "Dad, we're getting married." And he's a rapper with a mouthful of gold teeth, a do-rag on his head, muscles popping out his arms, and a thug attitude. And then the nightmare gets deeper because before you know it, I'm hearing the pitter-patter of little feet, their offspring, cascading through my living room, cascading through my life, drowning me with the sound of my own hypocrisy. Because when I was young, I was knucklehead too, hearing my own music, my own sounds. And so I cursed the day I saw his face, which is a reflection of my own. And I rue the day I heard his name because I realized to my horror that rap, music seemingly without melody, sensibility, instruments, verse, or harmony, music with no beginning, end, or middle, music that doesn't even seem to be music, rules the world. It is no longer my world. It is his world, and I live in it. I live on a hip-hop planet. High stepping. I remember when I first heard rap, I was standing in the kitchen at a party in Harlem. It was 1980. A friend of mine named Bill had just gone on the blink. He slapped a guy, a total stranger, in the face right in front of me. I can't remember why. Bill was a fellow student. He was short-circuiting. Problem was, the guy he slapped was a big guy, a dude wearing a do-rag who crashed the party with 3 friends, and judging by the fury on their faces, there would be no Martin Luther King moments in our immediate future. There were no white people in the room, though I confess I wished there had been, if only to hide the paleness of my own frightened face. We were Black and Latino students about to graduate from Columbia University's journalism school, having learned the who's, what's, where's, when's, and why's of American reporting. But the real storytellers of the American experience came from the world of the guy that Bill had just slapped. They lived less than a mile from us in the South Bronx. They had no journalism degrees, no money, no credibility. What they did have, however, was talent. Earlier that night, somebody tossed a record on the turntable, which sent my fellow students stumbling onto the dance floor, howling with delight, and made me, a jazz lover, cringe. It sounded like a broken record. It was a version of an old hit record called Good Times. The same 4 bars looped over and over. And on top of this loop, a kid spouted a rhyme about how he was the best disc jockey in the world. It was called Rapper's Delights. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard, more ridiculous than Bill slapping that stranger. Bill survived that evening, but in many ways I did not. For the next 26 years, I high-stepped past that music the way you step over a crack in the sidewalk. I heard it pounding out of cars and alleyways from Paris to Abidjan, yet I never listened. I came rumbling out of boom boxes from Johannesburg to Osaka, yet I pretended not to hear. I must have strolled past the corner of St. James Place and Fulton Street in my native Brooklyn, where a fat kid named Christopher Wallace, aka Biggie Smalls, stood amusing his friend with rhyme 100 times, yet I barely noticed. I high-stepped away from that music for 26 years because it was everything I thought it was and more than I ever dreamed it would be, but mostly because it held everything I wanted to leave behind. In doing so, I missed the most important cultural event in my lifetime. Not since the advent of swing jazz in the 1930s has an American music exploded across the world with such overwhelming force. Not since the Beatles invaded America and Elvis packed up his blue suede shoes has a music crashed against the world with such outrage. This defiant culture of song, graffiti, and dance, collectively known as hip-hop, has ripped popular music from its moorings in every society it has permeated. In Brazil, rap rivals samba in popularity. In China, teens spray paint graffiti on the Great Wall. In France, it has been blamed unfairly for the worst civil unrest that country has seen in decades. Its structure is unique, complex, and at times bewildering. Whatever music it eats becomes part of its vocabulary, and as the commercial world falls into place behind it to gobble up the powerful slop in its wake, it metamorphoses into the next big thing. It is a music that defies definition, yet defines our collective societies in immeasurable ways. To many of my generation, despite all attempts to exploit it, belittle it, numb it, classify it, and analyze it, hip-hop remains an enigma, a clarion call, a cry of "I am from the youth of the world." We'd be wise, I suppose, to start paying attention. That's part one. That is part one of the reading from the reader, which is the second video in this series. So look out for the third video, which will be the second part of the reading. Thanks for watching.